There we go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Pamoja session with Luyolo Sijake from Qwili. He's the co-founder of the business, and we're very honored, Luyolo, to have you with us today. Just a little bit about Pamoja. So it's basically a convening where we try to talk about businesses and people that are doing work within the impact space or within work that is of value to communities and people. And so we've had a few people that have joined us in the past few weeks, but last year we hosted these sessions in person in Johannesburg, and they were mainly philanthropic networking sessions where people would come and just talk to each other and learn about what other organizations are doing. And through that, we saw that, when people get to know about certain organizations in depth, then it creates the opportunity for them to know how to work with those organizations better. And so the idea of collaboration and partnerships then makes sense from that point of view. So today we're very honored to have you, Luyolo, to tell us more about Qwili, in particular to unpack how your work is impacting in the informal economy, but also just maybe explaining some of the opportunities that people can have in working with organizations like Qwili to enable more investments and to enable more opportunity for people that are living in informal communities, but also participating in economies that are not necessarily structured, formalized, and so on. So I don't want to talk too much. This is your session, and I'm gonna hand over to you to take us through what you've prepared for us today. Thank you so much, Leo.
Thank you so much, Sanjile. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah. No, it's a sweet moment being able to be on a session like this with you. Sanjile and I go back way, 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 way back to our undergraduate years where we met in Cape Town. So it's always lovely to be connected with such old friends. Um, yeah, and I mean, I really admire the work that you've been doing, and you've been a real inspiration for people like myself who are in the impact space. Now, I thought today, well, the topic that was on there said, well, we were discussing the creation of prosperity in the informal economy. And this concept of prosperity is one that's been with us for a long time at Qwili. It's part of why we started the company. Well, we said, value in many parts of our economy are currently stripped away. Informal sector, the most productive people leave to work elsewhere and go back, or never go back. For example, townships and so on were set up only as to extract labor, and so this was the question of building prosperity. Building prosperity was quite a big factor in us starting the company. But I think as people in the impact space, we try not to be crude in the terms we use. So terms like prosperity, empowerment, impact are not necessarily clear. I think sometimes we kind of, if you ask 10 different people, you get 10 different definitions of those words. And so I want to clarify that, what that means in our context as Qwili. And what we mean by that is it is a more polite and so on euphemistic way of saying wealth. We want to build wealth. We want more money in the pockets of people in the communities that we operate in. That's what we're talking about. Um, and by and large, I think in the end, when we talk about empowerment, impact, and so on, that is what we mean. If you look around the world, the communities that are least in need of empowerment tend to be the wealthier countries and communities. So looked at the situation. We've grown up in South Africa, and we're bothered by the fact that the fundamental nature of our socio-economic landscape is not changing over time. And what is that? Well, basically the big inequality issue that we have. The fact that, well, the 10% of the most wealthiest people, the wealthiest 10% hold close to 90% of the wealth. The 50% of the least wealthy 50% holds a negative share of wealth in this country. Okay. And so there are many statistics like that that reinforce the idea of inequality. And then alongside that, you have poverty. Close to 40% of the population is poor, living on below $2.50 a day. And so this is something that bothered us. And we said, okay, we want to we were in corporate jobs, and we said, we actually want to be doing work that somehow addresses this. We want to, in our lifetime, see a material shift in that reality, and we want to play a role in that shift. So we looked at the situation. We said, okay, so what is actually the problem here underlying this situation? And so there's the first thing is, our economy is not growing very fast, and this is because we don't have a lot of productive industrial momentum happening in South Africa. So I studied economics, and this is a question that really interests me: production. How do you make an economy more productive? So we are not producing and exporting enough in this country, and therefore, our opportunities for economic growth and expansion are low, and we're not growing very well. But specifically in these communities that we are looking at, why is there such a slow or no growth in people's wealth? And this came to the question of participation. Okay, are people able to participate in the economy? Anyway, we started out trying to address the first point, production. We said, well, we set out saying we want to produce mobile phones here in South Africa. We said this thing is nonsense. We don't want to keep importing these phones from China. We're importing finished products. It's, you don't grow your economy like that. We should be producing them here. We set out our initial mission at Qwili was to produce mobile phones, smartphones in Africa, in South Africa, that could be sold on the continent and used by people here. And so we said, well, in that way, we're creating opportunity, by creating jobs here in the manufacturing sector, and we're actually producing things that we can export, and we grow wealth in that way. That particular vision required a big investment. So we went out and we looked for people to invest in this vision. We wanted to sell 80 million smartphones in a period of 2 years. We said we're going to do this, and we need $1 billion to do that. Well, we went out, looked for this money, and needless to say, we were just just came out of our corporate jobs at 26 or 27 years old, and nobody was willing to give us that, with no experience in the manufacturing sector. Anyway, we said, fine, let's do it ourselves. And so we started bringing in the components of mobile phones from China and then assembling them here. Now, in addition to this production question, we said, well, the world is moving in the direction of digitization, and the internet is becoming a key determining factor in people's ability to work, generate incomes for themselves. I mean, look at us now, right? And if you look at yourself, you ask yourself, well, what role does your access to your smartphone and the internet play in your ability to work, your ability to learn, your ability to earn money? plays a massive role. Now, if you take the fact that, well, we're the furthest behind as a continent in terms of access and use of the internet, the mobile internet as well, that becomes a serious stumbling block as well to progress and the building of wealth on the continent and in South Africa. So we said, well, we want to use these phones to enable people to access the mobile internet and the internet more easily. Okay, so they have to be affordable and easy to use. So we then also started working on an operating system that would make it easier for people who are new to the mobile internet to quickly learn how to use it and benefit from it. Because one of the things we found in our early trials is that a lot of people who, first of all, not many people have reliable smartphones, but those who do don't progress past using them for entertainment and communication. So WhatsApp and TikTok and Facebook and so on. But there's so much more that you can do. So we said, well, we want to bring people into the realm of transacting online, earning, creating incomes for themselves online, and learning online as well. So we said we want to build an operating system that does that, and we started doing that. So with our first batch of phones, we then took them to one of the rural parts of the country, Qwili, and we sold them there at a very low cost. And we started observing people's behavior. We built into our operating system an ability for people to buy basic services like airtime, electricity for themselves. And so, we kind of then sat and said, let's see what happens. And what we found was that people, the transaction volumes were so high. Most of our users were grant earners, but so we said, you people are transacting much higher volumes than your grant income that you receive. So they said, no, the people around us are buying airtime, electricity from us because it's so inconvenient for them to go and travel to buy these services for themselves. And so with that with that device and the ability to sell these services or buy these services for themselves, they found themselves in an economic opportunity, right? Able to generate some sort of income for themselves. And so for us, this was one of the moments of like an aha moment, where we said, okay, you don't need to, people in our country and in our communities are eager. There is an eagerness to generate an income for themselves and to improve their conditions. There are people who are eager, and with a little bit of help along the way, and if they're enabled with the right resources and tech and so on, they can really go leaps and bounds in terms of providing for themselves. So anyway, so this is where then the business transitioned from being a hardware business to being more of an app-based product that basically allowed people to sell products and services to people around them in their communities. And so that's what Qwili is today. It's essentially an app that people in township and rural communities can use to sell a wide range of products and services to people around them in communities where people would otherwise have to commute long distances to buy their bus ticket or pay their DSTV or buy their supply of chicken for the week or whatever it is. They can just buy it from a neighbor or a community member. So moving away from the hardware business, we did unfortunately leave behind this idea around producing and manufacturing. And we've shifted more squarely into the realm of participation. of participation. So because what we've done with the app is that we've enabled anyone to form part of the retail value chain in South Africa. Um, so I started by talking about the wealth concentration and how there's negative wealth in many of the communities that we service. We mainly service township and rural people. And so often for many families, the only source of income that they receive is a grant, social grant, which can be anywhere from like 500 Rand to 2,000 Rand if you're on a pension grant a month. And sometimes that's supporting multiple people. Typically, the people we service are earning below 7,000 Rand a month, and they need supplementary income. Most of that income is taken up by food and transport, and so there's this need for an income supplement. And so with this limited income that comes into the lower income communities that we service, uh, what you want to avoid in that kind of scenario is that that income leaves that community immediately. And that's what happens if someone goes to, you call it something like a shop right, or uh, you know um, uh, buys from most of the stores and outlets in the communities where people spend their money, the very limited income that they have, um, does not remain there, right? Goes to ShopRite headquartered somewhere in Stellenbosch, or right, or that the money doesn't circulate in the township community that the income earners live in. And so this is something you want to avoid, and it's an economic concept called the multiplier. So if Sandile and I live in a community, I earn 100 Rand this month, and instead of going to the city center and cutting my hair at the barber shop there, I spend it at Sandile's barber shop. He cuts my hair, right? That 100 Rand does an extra loop in my community. Sandile can then go and spend it with the local guy who paints and get his house painted or his window repaired. That 100 Rand spends an extra day in our community. Every time that money exchanges hands within our community, it has a multiplying effect on the wealth in our community. So the so this then is at the heart of what we try to achieve with Qwili. We're saying, well, most households have spend the vast majority, between 30 and 60% of their income in townships and rural areas, on basic necessities, food, and household items. So we want to make it more convenient for the consumer to buy those items, and cheaper, so they have to spend less money to go and travel to a shopping center. And we want to enable the Qwili merchant to generate an income by being useful to those customers and those the township households who require those goods and services. And thereby we keep those rands, the limited income that comes into the township and rural household every month, circulating within that community. And so that's been, our focus now. So we try to solve a problem really for three key role players in the retail value chain. So the first is the customer, the end consumer. People usually have to pay, take a ride to the local shopping center to pay their insurance payments or buy, their groceries. So they can now no longer have to do that. They can buy from a neighbor. So there's a convenience and a cost saving element for the end consumers in the markets that we service. Then for suppliers and producers of products and services, townships are notorious for being very expensive and complex to distribute products and services into, you know, and therefore you have many producers and suppliers of products and services who don't even bother. Um, and so then also alienating all those consumers. So, there's safety concerns, the quality of the infrastructure is not as good. And so, you sometimes just can't get product in there as easily. And it's a much more fragmented supply chain. So we become a distribution infrastructure for those suppliers of products and services. Through our merchants, we're able to we can move essentially any product or service into a township or rural setting. Our merchants become the infrastructure. And so companies and so on are willing to pay for that. And so our merchants earn from those companies by advertising their products and selling their products into township communities. This is more money in their pockets. And then the merchant themselves, this is an opportunity for people to generate an income. And so, so they can provide an income for themselves. A lot of the money that our merchants generate is spent on food. So around 30% of the earnings our merchants generate is spent on food, school fees, and saving. Saving. And saving is something that typically the households in our part of the world, are not really doing. There's just not enough room, breathing room financially to do that. So this is something we were very proud of. And well, I think it's also telling about 80, around 80% of our users are women. So and I think certainly from the community I come from, the women are the responsible ones. They're keeping things going. They're keeping the family, together, and so they are so quick to take up any opportunity to increase the family's wealth and increase the family savings. And so there it's incredible to see what they can do with very limited resources. So and ultimately we measure ourselves based on how much money goes into people's pockets every month at Qwili. Right? So people make some money every time they sell something, and they can also put their own markup on products, and that's what we measure ourselves by. And there's a lot of research now around the power of earned income. The idea of universal basic income is one that's very impactful and has changed the way many governments work. But the power of earned income in providing a sense of dignity and having a narrative to one's life. I do this. I'm an entrepreneur. Has also been something that's been shown to be very impactful. So that's what Qwili looks like today, and that's basically the mechanism we try and use to generate prosperity in the informal economy. Now we have not managed to change the world or change the country as yet, but I think we've changed the lives of the roughly 3,000 to 4,000 people who use our platform as entrepreneurs regularly, and so that's something we're proud of. But we are currently in the process of planning for to scale. Now, I think anyone who's this idea of creating prosperity has both been almost the entirety of the reason we are here, but it's also made our lives very difficult, because doing entrepreneurship and so on if you've got a very strong desire to make social change, it complicates things, right? Because having a pure profit-oriented focus is a simpler way of going about things. And yeah, so introducing, by being entrepreneurs who have a strong desire to make social change, it adds a lot of complexity. Because the first thing is we are going against one of the core ideas of capitalism, which is the system that we live in, which is that capital follows capital. Money goes where other money is. We are going where money is not. And we are trying to build, and we want to make that environment more investable. We want money to stay circulating in those economies. You see, so I think that's been one of the challenges that we've had to navigate as entrepreneurs, as people who believe in driving change through commerce and through commercial activity, rather than through government or through the NPO, NGO type work. So yeah, so I don't know, Sandli, if I should continue or if I should wind down there.
Yeah, you are welcome to continue, Luyolo, but I don't know if maybe so far if there's
Okay.
any questions or
All right.
yeah, I don't know any. Yeah, but you're welcome to continue.
Yeah. So our okay, so because we have until 40, hey?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so this is us now. So as we kind of so as we sort of try and imagine a future, and what really becomes, um we've we've learned, the first thing is we've learned a lot of lessons from, we've been in operation now for about 6 years. So the the first one has been around balancing what I was just talking about now, balancing impact and the need to be a commercially sustainable venture. And so for the first while, for the first maybe 3 years, we were not really a commercially sustainable venture, right? We've managed to continue over that period. We were funded by venture capital firms who saw that, well, we have a real commercial angle that works and could become a valuable company, as well as grant funding. So there were grant funders and philanthropy organizations that identified that we've also got a strong impact story. So that allowed us to kind of find our feet and pay the school fees and learn the lessons of the earlier years, where you kind of need to try and striking this balance and finding this balance happens, because on the one hand, if we are if our focus on generating profits for Qwili are excessive, we then leave too little money on the table for the merchant. And if the merchant is not incentivized sufficiently, they won't continue. And they also can't generate enough money to make ends meet and for it to make sense for them, right? The whole idea is that we want to make it easy for people to generate incomes for themselves, is that you can run a business just from your phone. And so, yeah, so the last 2 years, we've spent a lot of time improving our commercial model and making sure that we're commercially sustainable, because we want to be this partner in the lives of our merchants for their entire lives. We want Qwili to be there, and we want people to be able to rely and plan around Qwili and around saving and building wealth for their families around Qwili, whether they do Qwili as a full-time job or not. as a full-time endeavor or not. We want people to be able to plan in the long term around us. So I'd say we've now reached that point after many bumps and bruises. We've had a few like growth spurts, and then had to slow down, reevaluate the project, and then continue growing. So um, the as we proceed now, we um, we we see our real opportunity as being is our main focus now is on ensuring that people understand that they can participate in this economy, in the retail economy. So with um, with competitors, and it's kind of hard to put ourselves up against anyone, but you've got, I'd say, the closest to providing the township market with a reliable source of household items is companies like ShopRite. And so we want to become a better alternative for people in our communities to ShopRite. We want to say, we will service you better. We will provide you with more efficient, cheaper access to higher quality goods. You deserve a good service. You deserve the same conveniences, the same efficiencies that people in wealthier areas have access to. For example, the fact that generally speaking, most township areas are not serviced by the likes of Checkers 6060 and Take a Lot because of the complexities and costs around delivery. That's the area that we are filling. That's the space that we are filling. And so, yeah, so being focused mostly in the Western Cape now, we're really refining the quality of the service that we're delivering. And so coming from a very big and lofty idea like creating prosperity, it's an abstract idea. But enabling people to, and enabling participation in the economy, big ideas, abstract ideas, creating wealth, money in people's pockets. The nuts and bolts of operationalizing that is very complex, and making a supply chain work into rural areas and into townships is complex. And so having now 6 years of experience and school fees and lessons behind us, we believe that we are one of, if not the best placed to tackle this problem, and to be a real enabler for participation in the economy where people struggle to get their foot in the door. We want to be a real conduit for people to be able to participate in the economy. So our hope now is that the work we've done and the foundation we've built, behind that we can we're in the process of fundraising to do a real national push, national expansion. We're quite far along in that process now, and because that's what it needs. And so I hope that we can become an example of, and I hope that also other ecosystem players as well, who would participate in this process of saying, okay, bold ideas that want to deliver a strong social impact must be funded and must be equipped with the kind of support they need, to make the impact nationally that's possible.
Luyolo,
So
we've got about 2
yeah,
minutes left. So Just to give
Yeah.
a heads up about that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Um, so I guess I'd conclude in just saying that you know the work of Qwili is about straddling the worlds of impact and commercial sustainability, which is tricky to do, especially at a large scale. They often don't exist together. And in South Africa, the two have been at odds with our past of exploitation of people and so on. The two have been at odds. Our work is trying to merge the two. And yeah, all the work we've done over the last 6 or 7 years has been trying to demonstrate that that's possible in a way that can, where the impact can be system wide, right, and throughout the country. Yeah, and so I guess I'll wrap it up over there. Thank you
Well,
guys for having me. Mm.
yeah, thank you so much, Leo. This was really, really great. Sorry that we don't have a lot of time. So we've literally a minute, so we won't be able to take any questions. But I think this won't be the last time that we have you here. I think one of our own intention is to really be proactive in enabling the informal economy ecosystem. So, and I'm sure you've got everyone's contact, so maybe you can reach out to everyone, maybe with the company profile for those that want to keep in touch.
Yeah, sure. Anyone, anytime, welcome to contact me.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, good to see you, Nikki, as well. Yeah, at any point, yeah, welcome to contact me. I think you shared my
Yeah.
details with people
Yeah, I
in the
will. Yeah.
in the invite. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks,
yeah.
Leo.
Thanks for having me. Hey, I really
Okay,
appreciate
have
it.
a good day, and thanks everyone for joining. Okay,
Alrighty.
bye, bye, bye.
Cheerio.